Greetings everyone, Archimedes here, and welcome back to another brick-filled LEGO video. Today, we're going to be taking a closer look at my Christmas my own creation for 2014, and some of the techniques I used therein. So, let's get started, shall we? Before I began designing this mock, I really had to figure out where I was going to put it, because it wasn't just a my own creation, it's really a display of a whole bunch of different ones, and I wanted to find a good space to put it. I couldn't just put it on the floor because I'd probably knock it over. I live in a kind of small house, and I don't have a lot of tables to put it on. In the end, I chose this, my only real option, a display table my dad made me a long time ago. Since the table is only about 5 feet by 3.5 feet, I knew I would have to consolidate my ideas to fit it all within this kind of small space. I have made Christmas my own creations in the past, just for my family. However, since I wanted to post this one on YouTube, I figured it had to be extra high quality. I started with the basics, laying out the train track, which just barely fits around the edge of the table. I then planned out what buildings I wanted. I knew I was going to make a little winter village, and I decided that I would try to make 2 or 3 buildings, since I really didn't have enough space for many more, and still leaving enough big white snowy expanse. I also wanted to incorporate my family's hard-won collection of modular buildings, to give a contrast in between a bustling city and a quaint and cozy winter village. However, I had a bit of a problem. If I placed them in the back, on the floor of the table, there wasn't simply enough space to put the train track in place. And that's when I had a radical idea. What if I suspended the modular buildings above the train track, with the train running in a tunnel underneath? It would raise up the modular buildings, thus giving a greater contrast in between the city and the village. But how exactly would I suspend those modular buildings? It was a brilliant idea, but I really had nothing that would hold it. I finally decided. I, however, am really not that good at woodwork, and thus enlisted the help of Tech Dude, my dad, who made this platform masterfully. If you flip open this side, you can see the supports for the tunnel using those triangular angle braces. Those are really sturdy and really help distribute the weight of the buildings on top. I then began designing the train, taking the basic design of a few LEGO trains that LEGO sold a few years ago, 2004 I think. I took the design and redid it in a more holiday color scheme and edited them a little bit to make them look a little more fitting for this design. One of the greatest problems I faced, however, was that because the train was slightly more weighty than the Power Functions motor had originally intended, the locomotive, who really doesn't have that much weight, was having a lot of trouble trying to pull the entire train. The motor just couldn't get enough friction to work properly. It would drive along very slowly, making absolutely horrific sounding grinding noises. To fix this, I switched the train motor from the front of the train to the back, which had slightly more weight, as I have the IR hidden within. However, I still didn't have enough weight to provide enough friction to have the train pull well, so in the end, I dumped a whole stack of quarters inside, as you can see. This provided just enough weight to push the train down and give enough friction to pull the entire train forwards. There's probably a more elegant solution, but it did the trick. I then began designing the buildings in the village. I started with the station since this would be the easiest to scale off of the train. I could then use the basic proportions of this station to work the other 2 models. When I was designing the roof, I came upon my biggest problem. Now, I had designed the roofs like this, with a pitch forwards and back. Now, it created the proper angle for the roof. However, I had this weird looking back tilt to it, which I really didn't like, and I wanted to cover up. I could have just continued the slope up higher, but it would have made the roof look way too high, and it just didn't look right with the model. So what I did was attach sideways builders to the back of the original roof plate, and then attach another plate for the opposite roof on top of them. Since all sideways builders, or at least all that I know of, have a 90-degree angle, and these slopes here are 45-degree angle slopes, meaning that two of them would be a 90-degree angle, I saw that this would fit nicely. It gave me the two pitches of the roof, which covered up this kind of unsightly back slope, and it made the house look a little more realistic. I then moved on to the cottage. Now, as you can see, this cottage is fairly based on the Lego Winter Village cottage, and thus a lot of the techniques I used in it are kind of similar. As you can see, I used the same kind of pitched roof with the one brick inside the roof bricks to give that extra snowpack on the outside, which makes it look so quaint. Since the pitch for this addition to the house was slightly different from the 45-degree angles I used on the station, I had to use a slightly different technique to attach this back roof piece. Here I used these smooth hinges that came in a bunch of older 1990 sets. I've been beginning to use them a lot more often in places where I want a slightly less precise angle, like here. For the toy shop, I wanted a bay window in the front, and this proved one of my greatest design challenges when designing this entire Christmas mod. I wanted to make this bay window able to fit the normal Lego window, the 4-stud by 3-stud high window. Now, Lego's done bay windows like in the past, only this and this are 2-studded with a 4-stud in the front. You've probably seen this before, and it looks very nice. So I thought it would compare, just to pop this out, to 4 studs instead. At first glimpse, this might look as if it fits into the normal Lego geometry. However, if you look closely enough, you'll see that it actually can't quite fit on without pushing the Lego geometry a little bit. As you can see, though it may be hard in the video, this is actually straining these hinges a little bit. They're stretching, and these bricks are actually pulling forward slightly. In the end, I went with it. I probably should have just put a smooth plate under here. However, that would have made this entire bay window rock back and forth, which would have looked super cheesy if you bumped it. So, I may be stressing my bricks, but I'll take my chances for this one little bit. The city is mostly just the normal modular buildings with a little bit of snow added on to make it a little more wintry. The only real mock I have in here is this little snowblower prototype, which I made. The snowblower is fairly simple, and it's really just a prototype. The only thing I really like about it is the rocket fins, which I used as the impeller for the snow, and how I managed to structure on these orange plates. It's kind of fun. It's not really perfect or that great, but I want to mess around with the concept in the future. The other thing of note in the city is the street. Now, as you can see, it's just a typical snowy street. First, you might even think it's a road plate. However, if you look closely, you can see that it's actually a whole bunch of bricks placed on their side like this. As someone who doesn't have many road plates, this was a way to invent one for my own, and also one with the custom design for the snowplower to push. That isn't the only snot in the model as well. As you look in the skating pond, you can see that it is entirely studs not on top. All these sideways placed bricks. The rink is just a whole bunch of sideways placed bricks, as I said. Now, I could have smoothed out the edges a bit with angle bricks. However, I kind of like the rugged look to it, as if the snows just started to drift onto it. I used plastic wrap on top to make the blue water look a little more icy. And also I used sideways builders to attach the trees and the bench. In the center of the village, we have the Christmas tree. Once again, another purely brick-built structure. Designing it was fairly simple once I came up with the basic pattern. I'll run a video on this in the future. However, for now, let's just note that it's a kind of pretty cute Christmas tree. The one other thing that I wanted to do is I chose to just use these little yellow studs as candles on the tree. I could have made something much more detailed. However, in this very blocky brick-built style, I thought that normal, more complicated candles would outshine the model and make it look kind of lame. Whereas with the brick-built candles, it kind of flows into the general shape. And we have, of course, the rocket-powered Santa sleigh. Now, I had originally wanted to make a sleigh in this model, but I really was unsure how, since I didn't have any reindeer. I mean, you really can't take 2 Lego horses and turn them into 8 reindeer with antlers, etc. At least not with the pieces I have. I could have brick-built the reindeer, but it would have taken me way too long, and I just simply don't have that much brown in my collection. So I decided to do one of the greatest tricks that any Lego builder can ever learn. When in doubt when creating something that's normal in the world, just add something totally ridiculous and everyone will find it funny. At least, I hope you found it funny. I rather like this rocket-powered Santa sleigh. It got rid of the problem of making reindeer nicely and allowed me to add my little sci-fi twist to the whole model. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was my Christmas My Own creation for 2013. I really hope you liked it. I hope that this video was interesting or informative, or at least that it entertained you for a little while. Now, please note, I didn't go into a lot of detail about a lot of the techniques I used in this model, simply because they will most likely be in series that I will do in the future, and because they're really complicated. There's a lot of stuff behind each of these techniques, more than I could just say in this few-minute video. In the description, once I post these videos on these various topics, I will add those links so you can run to those series if you want to learn about any particular technique in more detail. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I bid you all farewell. My name is Archimedes36, and I'll see you next Sunday.